This is only the beginning.
Hello everyone, Taisha here from Team Ham, and I'm here presenting my Battle Sister OTT Premium deck. It's a deck that I decided to roll with past ban lists from October 1st, and I've tested it against quite a few of my teammates and a few of my friends locally, including against clans like Grand Blue, Link Joker, Genesis, Bermuda Triangle, Pale Moon, Nubatama, and the deck is surprisingly a lot stronger than I first gave it credit for. It hits pretty hard early game. It can generate a lot of hand later on in the game, and overall it's just a very solid pick for premium, I feel. And I just wanted to present it to everyone today, and you know, in case anyone's interested in starting premium and they wanted to choose Battle Sister for OTT, this could be just a basic blueprint that you can start off with, and then just build the deck and alter it however you like. But without further ado, let's get started. I'll put the strides over here. We'll get to them in a little bit. Full quick show over there. All right, so we run 6 grade 3s in this deck. We'll start off with Fromage herself. This is the main grade 3 you want to ride. Her skills are, during your turn, if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, all of your Battle Sister units get +5, including herself, which is really nice, especially on turns that you can't stride for whatever reason. The main skill is the second one, Vanguard or Rearguard Circle when placed. You can Counterblast, Soul Blast 1, and draw a card, and then if your Vanguard's a Battle Sister, you can draw an additional card. So if you ride her as your Vanguard, you're going to draw 2 cards. If you call her to Rearguard Circle, you'll draw 2 cards. So because that's on placement, you can do that, draw the 2 cards, and then perform your stride, which is really nice when you're going second. Then her last skill, and this is a skill you would want to use if you're going first and you get to 3 before your opponent. Once per turn, you can discard a card from your hand, look at the same number of cards at the top of your deck as the number of your units with Battle Sisters and their different card names, and put each card you looked at on top or bottom of the deck in any order. So you can stack, like say if you have a full field of 6 different Battle Sisters on the field, you can look at the top 6 cards of your deck and just rearrange top or bottom of the deck. So very good card, very versatile. I love it. Love the card. And then the other grade 3 I run as backup is the original Battle Sister Florentine. She was a G-era card that had an on-stride skill along with an on-placement on Vanguard. So her on-placement is, you look at the top card of your deck and you can put it top or bottom. So you can ride her and still do an on-placement skill before you stride, which is nice. And then her other skill, which I don't use it very much, but basically when you stride on her, you counterblast a Battle Sister damage. So you have to have an actual Battle Sister in the damage zone. You look at the top 2 cards of your deck, you put 1 into your hand, put the other one on top or bottom, so you can stack 1 card on top. And then you give your Vanguard the ability of continuous. All your rear guards with Battle Sister name get an additional 3k, which pushes for numbers, which is what I really like about this deck. It's just always pushing for numbers. So, and another reason I chose her is because she doesn't need a counterblast to do her skill or her on placement skill. So say your opponent is damage denying you and you don't have that Heal Guardian yet, which comes out in November for everybody over here, so look forward to that. But yes, if you don't have the Heal Guardian to give yourself a damage, or your opponent decides not to give you damage before you get to grade 3, you can play her and still do an effect. So she's really nice for that as well. I like it. So for our grade 2s, we're starting off with Battle Sister Trifle. She's the main grade 2 of the deck. When Vanguard Rearguard, when she's placed from hand, you counterblast 1, you look at 3 cards to the top of your deck, you call up to 1 Battle Sister from among them to Rearguard Circle, but then you put the rest on top of your deck in any order. So when I play her, I usually see 1 Battle Sister normal unit and then 2 triggers. So I'll put the 2 triggers on top, rearrange it, and then call out that unit. So she's really good for the early rush triggers, deck stacking for triggers or normal units that I may need. Then her second skill, which is mainly used during the strides turns, is when she attacks, if I looked at my deck by a card ability this turn, until the end of the battle she'll get +5, but then I can Soul Blast a 3 and your opponent cannot call Sentinels against her from hand. So she's basically the guard restrict of the deck. Besides one of the strides that we'll get to in a little bit, she's really important for the guard restricting. It's actually won me a few games against some of my friends because they run grade 1 PGs, like the overdress PGs. So she can get around those annoying cards. So very important to have for the deck. And then I run 2 Battle Sister Macrones. Once per turn, if I look at my deck through a card ability, she gets an additional +10. Early game rush, especially when I combine her, if I can if I ride another grade 2, and I have her in hand, I can call her to rearguard circle, and then call her, check the top 3, rearrange him, call another unit, and then because I looked at my deck, she gets an additional +10. So very much an early game beater. Late game when I start doing my stride skills again, and not just another beater. I think she's pretty solid in the deck. I run her as a 2-of. And you'll see in a little bit that the deck does tutor a lot. Well, you kind of already saw it with this and then the draw 2. But there's a few more units that tutor, and it's great. I think she's a solid 2-of in the deck for sure. And then another card that I ran that I wasn't sure when I first started running her, Battle Sisters Sable. I thought, I don't know if I'm going to like this card, but I'm going to give it a try as a 2-of, see how it works. In early game, she is amazing. If her ability is when she's placed on rearguard circle, if the number of other units with Battle Sister in their names is 3 or more, so you can include so if you call her to rear, you have Vanguard, Battle Sister, and then 2 others. You can Soul Blast a Battle Sister unit to draw a card. So early game, she replaces herself with the draw. Because of all the tutoring that you're doing with, say, with Trifle or with the grade 1 I'll be talking about in a little bit, you'll almost always have this active. The only time you wouldn't have it active early on is if, besides not drawing her, is if your opponent didn't give you a counterblast for her. But it's been very rare in my playtest, and I usually have a counterblast. Usually, especially now that people after the ban list that I play against, they're not too afraid to give damage. So she's great. I think she's a solid 2-of in the deck. I wouldn't run more than 2. So if I see more than 2, I feel like it's just be clogging. So that's my opinion. Now, I'm running this as a 2-of, but I might take her out. Battle Sister Coquette. Again, apologize for the name, guys. Vanguard, Rearguard, when played, Soul Blast. Look at the top 5 cards of your deck. You reveal a grade 3 from among them. You put that on top of your deck. Shuffle the other cards you looked at. Not the whole deck, just the other cards you looked at. And then you put all those on the bottom. And if you do that, she gets +5. So I'm running her just for the Battle Sister name and the fact that she can get an additional 5k, but honestly, I've rarely used her skill. I don't run the Amaterasu V-Era card, so I can't really use her to her fullest extent. So I'm probably going to take her out for other Battle Sisters, but I haven't figured it out just yet. But there has been 1 or 2 situations where I didn't have a 3 in hand because I only run 6 3s, that she actually did come in handy, but it's not enough for me to keep warranting her in the deck. But for right now, she's a 14 beater. It's pretty solid. She lets you look through the deck, which triggers some skills like Trifle. It's not too bad. So if you want to keep her because you like skills like that, or you think about running Amaterasu from the era, then by all means go for it. Run her. Then the last 2 cards, my aggression cards, would be Battle Sister Cocotte. So she's an old unit from Extra Booster 7. Oh my goodness. She has the ability of Vanguard, Rearguard. When her attack hits a Vanguard, if your Vanguard is an Oracle Think Tank, which is what the clan you play, so that's active, you counterblast a Battle Sister damage. Then you get to look at the top part of the deck, and if it's a Battle Sister, you can reveal it to your opponent, so you can add it to your hand. If not, then you just put it on the bottom. Very nice early game aggression card. If I have the extra damage and I don't see a Trifle early, I love to ride her as my Vanguard swing, and I pretty much ask my opponent, you want the damage that bad? And let me potentially look at a card and get it to hand, or do you just want to block it so we both don't get anything? It's a card that I really like. It's been really handy, even in the late games. Your opponent still doesn't want you to look at your deck to get an additional card to hand, so they'll always guard for it. And it's a solid card all around. I like it a lot. I probably would take out maybe the other 2 of her for more of her, but not too sure yet. Still working on the deck, but so far I've been liking this. So now for the grade 1s. This with Trifle, both her and Trifle came out of the same V collection set. Was it earlier? Yeah, earlier this year. And I have to say, without a doubt, one of the best grade 1s in this deck. So she has the ability of Vanguard Rearguard when placed. You reveal the top card of your deck. If it's a Battle Sister, you can add it to your hand. If it is not, then you leave it on top of the deck. So when you play this, most of the cards in here are Battle Sister if they're normal units. What she doesn't add to hand usually are triggers, because most of those are not Battle Sisters. So when you reveal the top card with her, if it's a normal unit, you'll probably add it to hand. But then you're also revealing that it's maybe a trigger, so it'll stay there. Now your opponent has to go, wow, there's now a trigger there. I know what it is. Now I have to guard a certain way because that specific trigger is there. And it's overall amazing. I love this card. It is fantastic. I cannot say anything more. Her other skill is once per turn, when you look at your deck by card ability, she gets an additional +5. She triggers her own ability. So if you ride her and say you have another one in your hand, you call it and you reveal her, she just gives +5 to herself. And you can call that, reveal another +5. It's just it triggers itself. It's an amazing grade 1. If you're running Battle Sister, you have to run this as a 4-up like Trifle. You have to. I don't see a reason why you wouldn't. It's just too amazing, I think. Then the other grade 1 I run is for the Battle Sister Kasata. She also came out with Trifle and Torihas. I cannot pronounce his name. So they came from the same set. Her ability is once per turn when you drive check a trigger unit, you may give her an additional +10. So that the play I was telling earlier, say you went second, you ride her, you reveal the top, it's a trigger. If she's in hand, now you can call her to rear and say, well, this is going to get an additional +10. So you swing with this. If you're going to guard her, then you're just going to take this then, because most likely I'm going to give the trigger to her, and she's going to get whatever the trigger power is, plus an additional 10. So it's a very aggressive card. I love it for early game or late game when you're pushing with a certain stride. She gets the additional +10. It's just amazing. I think she's a really good card as well. I was originally running her as a 3-of, and then after some play testing, I knew that nope, I need to bump her to 4. She's too good. It has to be run. Now the other grade 1 I'm running is Battle Sister Panatone. Now I was running her at 4, and I was running her at 3. But then I decided to swap it because this card, well, let me explain the ability first. So on Act Rear, you put her in the soul, look at 2 cards on top of your deck, you put a card from the one on the top of the deck, then you put the other on the bottom of the deck, and the next time, until the end of the turn, the next time you drive check a trigger unit, that trigger unit gives an additional +10. Not to say, like, say you hit a trigger and it's +10 here, +10 here. No, it's +20 total to one of your rear guards. So it's amazing for that. Powers up the trigger. She goes into Soul, which gives you Soul, which this deck desperately does need, because a lot of the effects do require Soul, especially like a lot of the stronger effects later on in the game need the Soul. But that's the problem. The reason why I knocked her down to 3 and not have her at 4 is I don't like the idea of losing a rear guard, because if you notice, a lot of the Battle Sisters say if you control this many other Battle Sisters. Well, if you put her into Soul, you've just reduced yourself 1 Battle Sister. So, yeah, the effect is nice. I can look at my deck a little bit, triggers effects, but I don't think you need to run this as a 4-of. I know some of my other friends who also play Battle Sisters, they say no, this has to be a 4-of like the other cards. It's just too strong. But for me personally, my testing, 3 has been working a lot with me. And again, describing this deck list and showing it off to everyone, you don't have to build it this way. This is just the way that's been working for me in my testing and my group of friends. You can use this as a template, do whatever you want with it, and just go and have fun in Premium. Really fun format to be in right now. Definitely recommend it. So that's 3 of her. And then to round up the grade ones, I run 4 old stride fodders, 4 Battle Sisters specifically. When she's placed on rear from hand, I choose a grade 3 card with Battle Sister in its name and reveal it, so I can search for a grade 3 Battle Sister and add it to hand, and if I do that, I discard one. She can fix my ride. If if I have her in hand and I want to have Fromage instead, I can call her to rear, reveal Fromage to get, reveal Florentine to get the Fromage, add it to hand, but then I discard one, so I can just discard her. If I have other stride fodders to discard, or I can just discard another card, so I have the 3 to discard for striding. Other way you want to do it, her other skill is that her grade is added to +2 if you use it for stride. So again, stride fodder, it's great. Think you should run this card. Some people would argue you don't need 4. I just like to have the consistency of always riding the Fromage because that's the main grade 3 I want. So that's why I maxed her out at 4. Now for triggers, we run 4 draw PGs. I tried out the Battle Sister grade 1 PG. It wasn't working out for me. It didn't do enough for me, honestly. I'd rather get the draw, especially if I see this on my grade 1 turn and say I ride her, which has happened many times. I would ride her, reveal the top, it's a draw trigger, and I'll say pass. Do you want to give me the damage? Do you want me to just draw? It's basically what I tell my opponent when I reveal that. I love having these, gets around most guard restricts. Let's say no normal units, no 1s or higher. Solid trigger. I like this. Then I run 3 stride fodder crits. Striding is important in this deck, but I feel with the other triggers that I'm running in my lineup, I can get away with running only 3. If you want to run 4, you can. Nothing against it. But I at least 3. You need at least 3. I run, as I was saying earlier, soul is an issue, so I run 2 soul crits, give my Vanguard +10, and draw an additional card. Solid crit, definitely would run this in any OTT variant at all, because soul is important. Now, because it's Battle Sisters, we're open to using this trigger, Battle Sister Muffin. She has the ability of Act, Rearguard. You put her on top of the deck. If your Vanguard is a Battle Sister, you choose one of your units, give it +3 and the ability of Auto, Vanguard, Rearguard. If your hand has 5 or more cards, which is the keyword Oracle for OTT, when this unit attacks the Vanguard, you can countercharge 2, and then you shuffle your deck after you put her back on top. Very solid, returns crits, gives you countercharge, gives you an additional +3 power. It may not sound like a lot, but it does matter in some circumstances. And it's a Battle Sister name, so for those units that need Battle Sister Counterblast, she can be used for it. Just a solid crit. I like it. I tried running it at 4. The fact that these are the older crits, so they only give 5k power instead of the 10, that does hurt. So that's why I cut it down to 2 and opted out for the go into soul crits right here. Because even though soul is important for the deck, counterblasting is just as important. So having a balance of being able to get soul and counterblast refunded back to you, definitely important. So definitely try to run this in your deck, at least as a 2-of. Alright, so we're running up the triggers. We run the 4 heals. They're Battle Sisters. You can add them to your hand through your Battle Sister effect. They count also for your Battle Sister Counterblast effects. But once the Heal Guardians come out in November, these will definitely be switched out for Heal Guardians. Now, for the over trigger, we run the Keter Sanctuary over trigger. Now, this does mean that I don't run Ultima in my deck. Post ban list, we are choice restricted between this or the Xerath Dragon Ultima. And honestly, the way I burn through the Counterblast in this deck, and the fact that I don't run stand triggers, I just feel that Ultima is not really worth running in this deck. And on top of that, we have a stride that allows us to stack this card from our hand to the top of the deck, which I'll get into. So I feel this just has better applications overall in the deck. So definitely running this. But that doesn't mean you can't run the normal Cray Elemental over trigger that gives 2 units 100 million. Either one works. I just like the idea of drive checking extra cards, even if it's just single drive on rear guard. It's just very powerful. And then we run the Lozenge Magus starter. There's not really a Battle Sister starter that lets us draw a card, unless I'm missing it. But I just run this instead. On Rye, draw a card. If you go second, get a quick shield. The draw is too strong. This I've tried running the other Battle Sister starters, and it just doesn't replace what this can do. So yeah, we keep the starter. Also, it's Lozenge Magus. I mean, how can you not? Now for the strides, we run 2 Sterling Witch Momo. Yeah, it's gold and I can't really see the name. I think it's Momo. So her ability is when she attacks, counterblast 1, and I flip a G unit face up. I discard up to 3 cards, and for each card I discarded for her attack, my front row gets +10. And then if I discarded 3 cards, she restands with a drive -2. So when she swings, she gives the whole front row plus an additional 30k power, which is immensely powerful, especially as a first stride. This is my usual first stride I go into, and man, you can swing with her, give the 30k to the front row, but then she restands and swings one more time, 1 drive check, and in a deck that already swings early and trying to push damage onto the opponent, she can be a devastating first stride. I've killed many people with her first stride. So very solid, definitely run it. Not more than a 2, I feel. There have been very few games where I'll go into it twice, but it doesn't hurt to have the 1 extra in here. The main stride of OTT that most people would know would be Stillwater Festival Deity and Ichikishima. This is the stride that most people don't like facing when it comes to OTT. Her first skill is Countered by Soul Blast once per turn. You flip a copy of her from the G zone, and then you get to draw 2 additional cards, so just like that you draw 2. Now her other skill, at GB3, once per turn, you flip any G unit in your G zone face up, so any one of them does not be the same copy. You can only activate this if your hand has 5 or more cards at activation, so Oracle. During this turn, your opponent cannot call G Guardians, so any units like these, no G Guardians and no grade 0s from hand. That's a very strong guard restrict. So your opponent cannot discard heals of any kind to summon G Guardians, so that's a lot of defensive units out of the way. And your opponent can also not call zeros, which is a huge defensive unit in any deck. For anyone who's been playing Vanguard, you already know most of your grade 0s are where your shield comes from. So like say your over trigger, your regular crit, even if you run the heals, they're like 20k shields, 50k shield, 15k shield, you can't call any of these to Guardian Circles in your hand thanks to her. So it really gives detriment on your opponent's defensive capabilities, and usually your attacks will go through most of the time. Now, of course, some plans that have normal units that have the ability to get extra shield can be played into the Guardian Circle. They get around her. Your opponent can intercept as well. When the new heal Guardians come out, you can play those as well because they're grade 3s, not 0s. So there's very few ways to get around this card. There are some plans, obviously, that can, but for the most part, not many can, and it's just very devastating when she appears on the field. So be careful, anybody who's playing against OTT, be careful of this unit. Those who are playing the OTT deck, which I'm guessing while you're watching this, big important stride for your deck. You must get for it. It's just too good not to run it as a hold up. Now for Battle Sisters, we do run the Battle Sisters stride Stolen. As implied in her name, she can steal games. So she has the act ability once per turn counterblast, flip a copy of her face up from the G zone. You may soul charge, so if you need that additional soul, she can give you that 1 more. Then you look at the same number of cards at the top of your deck as the number of your rear guard circles with Battle Sister in the name, so you don't have to be different. You get to rearrange on top or bottom of your deck in any order. So say if you have a full field of Battle Sister rear guards and you do her skill, you look at the top 5 in that case, and you would rearrange any number top or bottom of the deck. Very strong, able to stack triggers like that. There have been multiple times where I've actually stacked an over trigger with her skills, just usually like the 4th or 5th card on a full field, and it's really strong, very devastating. And her second ability is GB3, continuous unban. All your rear guards with Battle Sister in their names get an additional 3k. So just like the other grade 3 I mentioned earlier, if you stride her on her, you're giving all your rear guard Battle Sisters an additional 3k. An additional 6k, so 3 and 3. And Battle Sisters being able to power up like that, and then you're able to stack your triggers, your opponent has to be very careful how they guard. And it just adds extra pressure on the opponent. So, very solid card, definitely a 2-of, I feel. I don't think you need to run it as a 4-of, but say you can't afford getting Ichikishimas or other strides mentioned in this deck profile, she's very affordable, I feel, at the time of this recording. You can get her as a 4-of. But definitely at least a 2-of is warranted. Now, earlier I mentioned we can stack the over trigger, and it's thanks to Lord of Guidance Wakahirume. So she has one skill, GB2. When she swings, you counterblast 1, soul blast 1, flip a copy of her from the G zone face up. Then it allows, if you're an Oracle, so if your hand's 5 or more, you draw 1 card, then you take any card from your hand and put it on top of your deck. So regardless what you draw, if this is in your hand, you just put it back on top of your deck, and then this is on attack, so when she drive checks, obviously there it is, it goes off, and you can apply the effects to the field. So that's the only reason why I'm running her. I've not had to go into her for any other reasons besides that this is in my hand. So if your opponent's not wary, or they're not are not thinking about the type of cards you put on top of your deck, you can catch someone off guard with this. So definitely get it as a 2-of. It's the only reason for that. Yep, do it. Now, my 1-of stride that I do like to run, that was originally at the GBA, but now I put him in, is the Kamususa no. So he has 2 skills. The first one is Oracle, GB2, continuous on van. This unit gets an additional 5k in crit. We don't really use it for that. We care more about the second skill, which is when placed on Vanguard Circle, if the number of cards in your hand is 4 or less, you can counterblast 2 and draw cards until you have 5. So if you say your opponent went extra aggressive the turn before, or you're just not drawing really a lot of defensive units, so you have to use a lot of your normal units to guard, you can stride into him and try to get back your hand to at least play a board or maybe draw some defensive units to survive. I've rarely ever gone into this. Like I said, I was originally running the GB8, but then I switched back into him, and he's come up once, and it was against Regalia Genesis. They just went super aggressive on their turn, swung at me 7 times, and my hand was pretty much gone. I only had 1 card left in hand, which was my stride fodder, and then I drew, strode into him, counterblast 2, and I was able to draw an additional 4 cards, able to summon the board and push for game, basically. Very niche situation, but doesn't hurt to have. If anything, you can just use him for flip fodder. So just a nice tech option you can do. Then for G, that's all the strides. For G guards, I run 1 of the Boston's Magus Apex. So on Guardian Circle, when you play her, GB1, you counterblast 1, you flip any G unit face up. Then you get to look at the top 2 cards of your deck. You add 1 of those cards into your hand, and then you put the other card on the bottom of your deck. So if you're needing extra shield because your hand just can't guard your opponent, she can give you that 1 extra bit of shield, or that perfect guard if you're looking for it. If you're lucky, it's there on the top of the deck. You can G guard into her, look at top 2, and you can see basically, like, say you saw these 2, you're like, oh, awesome, so I can get another G guard to my hand, put this on the bottom, and then perform G guard again and be able to stop the opponent's attack that normally you would not have been able to have. So that's why I like to run her, just to get that extra chance in case, you know, my hand's just not enough to stop it. Just that 1 extra chance to see maybe on the top 2 there's a perfect guard, or maybe a G guard or something to help me. Then I also run 3 Son of Eternity Amaterasu. So placed on Guardian Circle, if your hand is 4 or more cards, she gets an additional 10k shield. So she's your main defensive G guard, so she guards with 25. Then her other skill, when she's placed on Guardian, you soul charge 1, so she gives you the extra soul for your other skills. You get to look at the top card of your deck and either put on top or bottom of the deck. So after you soul charge, you can look at the top card and say this was the last attack you blocked for the turn. You can look at the top card and go, okay, do I want to draw that or not? You can put it on top if you want to draw it, bottom if you don't. Very good utility unit, very good defensive unit as well, all around. Definitely a solid G guard for OTT. Definitely pick these up if you're planning on building any OTT deck. And then I know you see me keep waving her. She's the last G-Zone card, last G-Guard in my deck. The Battle Sister Bavarois? Yep. When placed on Guardian Circle, you can counterblast 1 to draw an additional card, and then you reveal the top card of your deck. If the revealed card is a grade 1 or greater, she would get an additional 5k shield, and then you may put the revealed card on the bottom of the deck. So she's kind of like Amaterasu in the regard that you can stack the top card of your deck. So with her, say you reveal, after drawing a card, you reveal, say this one, and you go, get 5k shield, block the attack. I kind of want to draw that, so I'll leave that on top. Or you can say, well, I don't want to draw that, I have enough stride fodders, so I can put her on the bottom. So she gives you that extra utility if you have that extra counterblast to spare. She actually has saved me a few games through my testing, so definitely sticking in my deck. If say you can't afford the 4 Amaterasus, or say you don't want to run her, you can easily just run her, or you can also take her out for a 4th Amaterasu. It doesn't matter how you want to do it. They're all just solid G guards, in my opinion. And that's really the deck, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this deck profile. It's something a little different. I haven't done a premium deck profile in a while. And with this one being kind of like an explanation as well as the thought process of the deck, it's definitely something different. But hopefully, again, you guys enjoyed. Put a like, comment on this video. If you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe to our channel. We're trying to push all kinds of Vanguard content, especially for the Houston area. Check out our other videos if you haven't already, and just have fun with the game. Honestly, in premium right now, thanks to the ban list, it's anyone's game now. Everything's been opened up. The main top decks are gone, so try what you like. If, say, you come on this video because you wanted to build Battle Sister, hopefully you like this template to start off from. If you just like OTT in general and you wanted to see an aspect of OTT, like maybe the strides aspect, hopefully you enjoyed it as well. Hopefully it gave you a place to start. And that's really it. Thank you so much, guys, for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care. All right, guys, y'all take care, and thank you again for watching.